Canadian fishermen Mallory Harrigan, Cliff Russell, and Alan Russell set out on their next fishing trip to the waters off the coast of Labrador. The morning began as usual, with the men gathering their equipment and checking the boat, preparing for another day at sea. After loading all the necessary supplies and provisions onto the vessel, they set sail from the harbor against a backdrop of a cold and picturesque landscape. Labrador has long been known for its grandiose glacial formations and challenging waters, a sight that can be both awe-inspiring and intimidating. As the boat glided across the sea, the crew enjoyed the fresh air tinged with a salty flavor, and the sound of waves crashing against their vessel. After several hours of fishing, they spotted a large school of fish, and with excitement and renewed energy, they cast their nets. Each man hoped to catch a significant catch. It became apparent that the day held promise. That day was a success, with fish playing around and water spinners hovering high above. However, an unexpected event soon occurred. On the horizon, they noticed a large iceberg, which was unlike anything they had ever seen. It emerged from the mist like an ancient sea monster from legends. The ice block, resembling a pile of ice, reflected the sunlight, creating a magical atmosphere. Mallory, who loved sea adventures, steered the boat towards this ice giant without thinking. The air grew noticeably colder, but they decided it was worth getting closer to this natural wonder. As they approached, the fishing team noticed something unusual. The shape of the iceberg had been altered by waves, so that one of its upper surfaces resembled the tail of a whale. It was as if a mysterious creature was hiding in the depths. On this whale, they saw something even more unusual. There was a small object in the distance. The fishermen exchanged glances, trying to determine what it might be. "Look, there's something moving over there," exclaimed Alan, pointing towards the top of an iceberg. However, as they drew closer, it became clear that it was not a typical seal, as had been assumed, but something more unusual. In fact, it appeared to be an Arctic fox. A small but brave Arctic fox was standing on the edge of an icy island, looking around in desperation for help. Cliff was surprised to see the fox. "Is that really an Arctic fox?" he asked, peering through binoculars. "What is it doing so far from land? This little creature is in serious trouble." The Arctic fox appeared frightened and shivering, clearly feeling threatened. As the boat drew nearer, its eyes widened with fear, and its first instinct was to jump off the ice in an attempt to escape. However, this only served to fuel its panic, as hungry seagulls circled overhead, eager for a meal. Gathered in groups, calling out and threatening, as if saying, "We are your enemies. Return. If we do not rescue him, it seems that he has no chance left," sighed Mallory, looking around. The fishermen, realizing the hopelessness of the situation, decided that they must do everything possible to assist this defenseless creature. They exchanged glances and without hesitation got down to work. And then they realized they did not have much time. "We must get closer," said Alan, without taking his eyes off the unfortunate Arctic fox. "Give me some time, I will try to lure it." As soon as they approached, the Arctic fox, stretching its small paws, retreated to the edge of the ice. Now tension filled the air. If it falls into the water, its chances of survival would decrease to zero. Mallory, noting this, quickly grabbed an old but strong rope. He did not want the Arctic fox to break its neck. If the fox jumped back too suddenly, Mallory carefully climbed onto the iceberg, using a rope, without waiting to lose anyone in the sea. He then shouted to get the animal's attention. However, the fox retreated, standing on the icy surface as if on the edge of a cliff. Mallory knew this was the last chance to save the fox, as any mistake could cost the animal its life. Despite his best efforts, the Arctic fox remained wary of humans, not responding to his calls. Despite the freezing temperatures, it was trembling, not taking a single step toward them. "We have no choice," Cliff concluded, climbing onto the side of the boat. "We must break a piece of the ice." Together, they gathered and walked in one direction, circling around the iceberg. They began to break off sections of the ice, trying to lure the fox closer. Acting quickly but carefully, they freed the ice chunks one by one. The group encountered difficulties and cold during their journey. Each step they took resonated with a loud echo on the frozen surface. They realized that even these methods did not guarantee their safety. Moreover, the ice was less able to sustain their weight. Despite the challenges, they persisted in their efforts. Finally, the Arctic fox clung to the edge of the ice, feeling a sense of security. The fishermen managed to safely transfer it onto the boat and place it in a comfortable container. It was a remarkable rescue, and the team kept the fox calm and gentle throughout the process. They exchanged weary but joyful glances. They had succeeded. When the Arctic fox regained its safety, shock was still evident. It remained motionless, almost as if it had been sleeping all along, but its eyes betrayed its continued fear. Despite its emaciated state, the little fox still maintained its majestic presence. How could she have been there? Mallory whispered to herself, looking at the fox. The first hour passed in the box, but the animal did not move. The fisherman agreed that it might need time to adjust. After all, what had it endured, surrounded by ice and threatened by hungry seagulls? Several hours passed before the Arctic fox began to move again. Mallory, suspecting something unusual, offered 2 sausages in the drawer. The animal looked warily at the humans, and then at the food beckoning to it. However, even this did not instill confidence in its actions. Maybe it didn't understand that eating was natural? Cliff mused aloud, watching its wary gaze as if testing a small portion for a sensible approach. With each passing moment, its eyes glowed with exploration and interest. It finally approached the drawer and, gathering its strength, cautiously bit into a sausage. When the fox finally decided to try the sausage, it seemed as if the hardships of her previous life were far away. The men watched her eat with joy, like children. It was a moment of true liberation as the fear curse left her. As the Arctic fox slowly adjusted, they began to notice that she was beginning to trust them. She became more confident, and soon, confidence gave way to trust. They fed her multiple times a day, observing how her strength returned, as if a fire was kindled in her eyes, a faithful reflection of her future. When they returned to land, Mallory and his companions realized that this was only the beginning of a new chapter for their heroic fox. They carefully selected a location for her new home, choosing an old cabin on the outskirts of Williams Bay surrounded by beautiful natural scenery and a cozy area where the Arctic fox could retire and become a part of the new world. Day after day, the fishermen would come to this hut, returning to their little home. The Arctic fox proved to be a true blessing for the fishermen, as well as for herself. Typically, she would always greet them with joy, like a dog, welcoming the arrival of her rescuers with every step they took. Over time, she came to regard the hut as her new home, and she even adapted the space around it to suit her needs. This created a unique atmosphere, which conveyed to everyone the message that they had saved more than just a life. They had also become a part of something greater, bringing a new era to the bright past. Like a furry little fox, the Arctic fox found herself at the center of attention, drawing visitors who could occasionally see her in person. Soon, a new life filled with amazing and unbelievable stories began to take shape in their small bay. These tales included the arrival of people eager to learn about her extraordinary story. To understand her journey, which was intertwined with the challenges she encountered, the young Arctic fox demonstrated increasing boldness and playfulness. With remarkable endurance, she forged her own path, demonstrating her ability to adapt to even the harshest conditions. Nevertheless, Chanterelle remained committed to her human companions, who understood from their experience that nature selects those who survive, a true lesson in mutual aid. As they went fishing together, Mallory not only focused on catching fish, but also thought of his little friend. He was eager to see her and admire her progress. After returning home, he shared his impressions with friends and family, discussing how the fox had become a symbol of the harsh but still beautiful natural environment. Several months passed, and the Arctic fox confidently conquered her fears and transformed into a stronger individual. A vital part of the district, the Arctic fox, has acquired a white fur coat and personifies the nature of Labrador. With every breath and movement, it brings new colors and emotions to life. Its story has become an inspiration for many local residents and tourists, creating a connection between them and nature. Despite the fact that it initially lived on its own, the fox became close to the fishermen who not only rescued it but also provided more than expected. Every year when the snow covered Labrador, the fishermen would gather and embark on a journey in search of goodness, stopping to remember the day when their lives were changed forever. If you enjoyed this story about friendship, assistance, and how even small creatures can touch our hearts, please do not forget to share it. Please subscribe to our channel to ensure you do not miss even more fascinating stories about man and nature.